Hello, and welcome to the Small Business Sweet Spot. I'm your host, Barb Davids, and this show is dedicated to helping small business owners like you get more organic website traffic, and also to help create and distribute content and analyzing the numbers so that we can make better informed marketing decisions. It is action-oriented, direct, and conversational. And if you've been looking for SEO or content marketing help, please stick around to the very end where I share about the group coaching program, Small Business Sweet Spot. I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Small Business Sweet Spot. This special episode features Lisa Garber, life and mentor coach, and one of my very first Small Business Sweet Spot members from last year. I have loved our conversations ever since we started talking together and working together, and I thought it would be a great idea for you to hear from Lisa. Also, just about all of the good stuff that she has. And I am going to first read off your bio, Lisa, and then I'm going to have the listeners hear from you directly about your sweet spot of who you help and how. So I'm going to jump into your bio. So Lisa, with over 25 years of coaching experience, Lisa Garber loves guiding coaches to find their confidence, carve out successful paths, and truly connect with their clients. Known for her deep insights and effective coaching tools, she is instrumental in turning aspirations into achievements for countless professionals. So thanks so much for agreeing to be with me today, Lisa, on the podcast. And I'm going to turn it over to you to let you start with sharing how you help small business owners or other coaches, and so people can hear from you directly.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me. I'm honored. And I sound so good in that bio, don't I? I just love that. It's important. It's good to listen.
Yeah.
I have transitioned for the first 20 odd years of my career. I've been a life coach only, and that has been fantastic, helping primarily women, but everybody on sort of finding themselves and figuring out what they want to do when they grow up. And really, it's been quite a wonderful journey. And then really, I noticed that the majority of the people that I meet have done that. They've done the work. So when I started over 20 odd years ago, people hadn't done the work. Now they've done the work. And now the question is, why aren't they out there doing what they want to do? So my real joy is working with other coaches because, of course, it's the area that I know the best. And I love to work with them to really work on what I think I mentioned to you once, the inner game. So I'm not a business coach as per se, right? I don't have that kind of tools or that kind of background other than all the work I do on myself in my own business, which is a lot. So I could share that. But what I've noticed is for most people, they need the help to get going, to get unstuck, to have the confidence to keep moving forward, to take the steps, to get out in front of people, to learn the new technology. I mean, there's a million things to do, right? And what happens is they don't do it, or they don't do enough of it, or they start and they stop. Do you know what I mean by that? They just don't do the work.
Yeah, it feels like it's almost like there's a period of motivation maybe, and then they get a really good sense of like what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and they build out the plan, and then it just kind of falls by the wayside.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So some people, everybody kind of has their area where they get stopped.
Mhm.
Some people can't get going. Some people get going and love the whole planning part of it, but then they cannot take action. And then other people are taking action in a haphazard way, perhaps without a plan. They may have jumped right in and now they're lost, confused, and definitely overwhelmed.
Mhm. So when somebody comes to you, what is maybe one of the first things that you ask them or get them to talk about in order to find out where they are in those different scenarios that you mentioned?
Yes, that's the question. Where are you at? It's kind of a simple question, isn't it? Yes, we would look at where, first and foremost, we look at where do you want to go? What is the vision? What's the dream? What do you think about at night? What keeps you awake in a good way? Who have you seen doing the things you want to be doing? Because with coaches, for instance, there's people who've written books. Then there's people who do the podcasts. There's people who do YouTubes, long YouTubes, short YouTubes. There's so many ways in which you can put yourself out there. So they, what does it look like for them? Where are they now? Right? And what's getting in the way? We also look at what's working. In coaching, you always look at what's working, because the idea in coaching is you're looking always at the solution. You're looking at the way to move forward. So if, for instance, somebody says, well, I've been loving posting on Instagram. I don't know who that person is, but they are out there, I'm pretty sure. They say, I love posting on Instagram. That's working. Great. Now, how come? How come that's working? What is it about Instagram? Is it the shortness? Is it the length? Is it the personality? You look at, why does that work for that person? And then what can we learn from that we can apply to the other areas that aren't working? It's a formula in it, I guess. I
Mhm.
always say to people, I'm not a formulaic kind of coach, but I kind of am in that regard, right? That is a classic way of learning how to get beyond your problems, and that is to figure out what you're doing well and figure out how to do more of that.
I like that. That's a good way to look at it. It also, I feel like that could also instill a little bit of evidence that they're doing the right thing.
Evidence is so good. That's
Yeah.
a great word, because evidence is how you build belief.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Exactly.
you're feeling self-doubt, which most of them are, then you've got evidence that tells them, you know what, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Good
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. So I have a question. I'm going to use my specific scenario, I think, to lead into it. So last year, I wrote some notes so I don't forget what it was I wanted to say to you.
Great, great.
So
Thank
it
you.
was like last year or like the year before. I can't remember when it was. Now it seems like my years have been running together just from I've been in business for like almost 5 years now. And every year there's been that whole motivation. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then it didn't happen as much as I thought it was going to. I've had success in my business, but not in the way that I think I thought I saw.
Mm.
And I learned a lot of it was from procrastination.
Oh,
And it was pointed out to me also, this is the part that I didn't see, was that I was causing my own stress. So for a long time, I was working with other clients and doing the work for them, but I would be like, "Oh, I've got to get this done. I got to get that done." And I felt like I was always busy doing something and I just couldn't get enough done during the day. And I realized somebody pointed out to me, "Well, why are you thinking about that?" And it wasn't anybody that did what you did. That was the interesting thing. They just happened to ask a question. And so thinking about this from your perspective, if I came to you saying, "I feel like I'm busy all the time. I can't get all of this work done. And I feel like I'm always behind. I'm always overwhelmed, but yet I procrastinate and I don't get the things done." Is now I'm trying to figure out how to word this, I guess, or how to put this into, is there something like that that are those things that keep people back from being successful? And if it's like that, are there other things that we might not have seen, like the procrastination, that keep us from going into the successful part of our business or getting into that out of
mm.
the start, stop, start, stop?
Yeah. I guess if I were coaching you, I'd ask you how you did it, but maybe you can tell us. But the thing about procrastination is that there's always something underneath it.
Mhm.
Procrastination itself isn't the issue, it's what's driving that procrastination. But perhaps you or that person hasn't even noticed they're procrastinating. So that's part of the problem. The first step always in change and growing your business, and which starts with growing yourself, is self-awareness.
Mm.
So what we would do is we would just really look at what goes on in your day. Let's review these things. What happens in a given day? You say you're working so hard. What exactly are you doing? And literally getting things on paper. I know people don't use paper, but paper works.
Yeah.
So, you look at it, you're interacting with it, you're seeing what you're doing. It might be one of those situations where a person would need to keep a diary for a week and just write down all the things that they're doing. Self-awareness is usually just almost good enough to change the habit.
Mm.
because you don't realize, oh, I just spent an hour scrolling through my phone. You didn't even know you did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it's always about self-awareness. Then we can see what exactly is getting in the way. And then the next thing, when you were talking, I was thinking, well, priorities. There needs to be a way to sit down and figure out what are the priorities.
Mm.
Because when there's a lot to do, then that's what happens. We just do a lot, task after task after task. And as you know, I used to say to people, your task list is, like the universe. It's infinite. It's just infinite. So you can't really live according to a task list. You have to take the task list and put it into a priorities list. And then you have to look and see what exactly, and that's when you get into discussions like, well, what is your priority? Is it to help everybody else? Or is it to be working on your own business? And that's a long discussion. That could be several discussions trying to
Mm.
figure out where you put yourself in your world. And for most people, I encourage them to put themselves first. Even if it's an hour a day, then they're putting themselves first and the first part of the day so that it gets done. And then they feel better about the rest of the day. And then, yes, look at what is causing the procrastination. Bottom line is it's some kind of fear. It's some kind of worry. What will happen if I put myself out there? What will happen if I'm not as successful as I mean to be? What will happen if I don't like this and I've changed my whole life to do it?
Mm-hmm.
There's just these questions that are ultimately fear-based that cause people to procrastinate. And
Mm.
they have to be looked at and bombarded with. You have to no, how do you change fear? You've got to, figure out if it's real. Is
Mm.
what will actually happen if you put yourself out there and nobody's interested, will you die? Like, what exactly is the fear? So, again, self-awareness, it's a remarkable tool to help us move forward in our
Mm-hmm.
businesses, for sure.
Yeah. I love that. So if there's procrastination is probably one thing. What might be some other things that we do that we might not be aware of that might be holding us back?
Well, let's see. We sort of justify, and this is, I think, just another kind of procrastination, is that we justify doing other things that seem more important. Oh, I've got to clean out that closet.
Yeah. I know that one.
So that is procrastination, but it's more like avoidance, and it's very, very convincing. We've convinced ourselves, we rationalize. So the avoidance is a big one for a lot of people. The other one is sort of over functioning, overdoing,
Hmm.
which means, like, for instance, I call it sometimes over consuming. And that's my thing. I want to learn about SEO. How many YouTube channels, how many YouTube videos do you think I have watched?
Probably
Not
a
enough
lot.
to watch one or two. No, no, I have to watch hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And so that's a big one, right? Just this over consuming it's funny too, because in reality, over consuming it's like an addiction. It's a bit of a dopamine hit. So
Mm.
it's not just an avoidance of your work. It may start like that, but then it becomes actually a habit. And then it becomes a little bit more difficult to break. But it is definitely a habit. So that can get people. A lot of people that I work with, they're women and they have families. And their families absolutely take them over. Absolutely take them over. In fact, I wrote a book when I was life coaching only. I wrote a book called How to Be a Mom Without Losing Yourself.
Mm.
Because all of my clients, that was it. They had completely lost touch with who they were. And that's still true with people building businesses and working on their websites and trying to get clients for their coaching practices, is that their kids, particularly, will come first. Now, is that real? Is that a value? Is that avoidance? You got to really, we look at that. We really do look at that, because It's the easiest one to use. Of course, I'd be a terrible mother if I didn't drive my child everywhere, right?
Mhm.
I'd be a terrible mother if I didn't let them walk in the middle of my hour that I'm supposed to be working on my, my thing, right? It's so in the guilt. It's so easy to fall into that. I have really spent a lot of time working with women on that one in particular.
Mm, okay. That's good. I can see that happening with some of the people that I know with that have kids, how
Oh, yeah.
they can definitely lose their self, or they have that expectation on themselves to do certain things in certain ways. So, let me ask you, in terms of the roadblocks, is there a particular person that you've worked with that you could share a little bit of what you helped them overcome, sort of like a success story, and going through that whole process, and just shared that particular scenario and what you did to work through it? And then maybe what resulted from that if they shared that with you.
Mm. I'll do my best. There is an element in which there's an aspect to my coaching, and I do believe it's true of any coaching, which is very creative and in the moment and hard to, I think that is one of the most exciting things about coaching, at least the kind of coaching that I do. It's not from a book and it's not set questions on a piece of paper. It's such a, I call it creative, right? So there's skills and there's the art of coaching. So when I'm working with somebody, both of those things are happening. So I can't always say what happened because it's magic. Sometimes it's just, an aha moment that happens and it changes their where they're going. I do work with one person who I started with a very long time ago, and she's gone through two, I think two, maybe three career choices till she wanted to coach. And and now she's moving into business mentoring as well, which has been really hard for her to do. So what's had to happen is, honestly, it's been a question of allowing her to believe that it's okay for her to be that person. It's like an identity shift.
Mm,
So her original identity was very one thing, which was always sort of secondary or third in there's somebody bigger than her in the family, let's say. There's always somebody doing more, or the expectations were that this person would do everything. And her identity. So we worked a lot on her identity, allowing herself to be big. There's this great book called what's it called? The leap, the zone, what is it called? The big
I think it's
leap.
called yeah, I've read that one.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
big leap. So she's been having to, she'll take these little leaps and then come back and take a little leap and come back and
Yeah.
take a little leap and come back. So we've been really helping her. And you know what? Sometimes that's how you need to do it.
Hmm.
So we've been helping her take a leap into stepping in and owning this new place where she has some authority and she has some expertise and people are interested in what she has to say. And then we have to go another leap and go and find again, sort of becoming somewhat comfortable in that new place that was originally uncomfortable in order for the leaps to keep going. So in her case, honestly, it was about identity. And that meant we just did a lot of talking about what she really wanted, what were her values, what happens, when she feels good and she's stepped into her power, what's that like? And then of course, what is she afraid of? That's the question. What are you afraid of? And then learning how to take away the fear, really
Mm,
make the fear on it's you don't take away fear as much as you shine a light on it.
mm,
Yeah, because what? Darkness. How do you get rid of darkness? You turn on the light.
mm. That's good. Yeah. Cool.
Answer your
Yeah,
question.
that did. Very much so. Yeah, I like that. That's a fun story about listening to her and how she went through that. And I hope that people get from that that it is about what we talked about, what you shared before in the awareness piece of it. I feel like that's such a big, just a big piece of that. Like it's so big.
Yeah,
Because if you
it
don't
is
know, then
big.
you don't know. So,
That's right. That's right. You can't change something if you don't know it's happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
When people come to you, is there some misconception that is the most prevalent when they start to work
Mhm.
with you? Or is there?
Yes. Yes. That I have all the answers.
You don't?
I may sound like I do, but that's a misconception. Yeah, the cool thing about the kind of coaching that I do is that it's really about the recognition that the person that I'm talking to already has all the answers, all the abilities, all the resources. That there's nothing, I'm not trying to fix anything.
Hmm.
And that is the misconception, is that somehow I will, you know, have answers to all their questions, and that my answers and my guidance will actually fix it, because that it doesn't, right?
Hmm.
If it were that easy, they would somebody else would have told them, right? I mean,
Hmm.
sometimes we have those aha moments like you had. It was like, wait a minute, that question just woke me up a little bit. But that's being woken up. That's not being told the answer to something. So yeah, that's the misconception. I can guide, and of course I do know a lot. After all these years, I do know a lot, and I've experienced a lot, but really I'm there to help the person. So if a coach comes, for instance, and says, I just can't, I'm afraid to, or it's usually not that. I don't know how to get a client. I finished my certification. I love coaching, and I don't even know where to start.
Hmm.
Right now, there's 100 ways to start. So am I going to list those, or am I going to say, okay, let's figure out what's the right one for you? How do you want to start? Who have you seen start? When have you started something before? It's like there's a lot of questions that will help that person to recognize, oh, this is how it'll work for me.
Mm.
I'm going to call up 5 people that I know, offer them coaching, and see if I can get some referrals from them.
Mm.
Or, I'm going to start writing a blog and letting everybody, like, there's a million ways, as you know.
Hmm.
And so that's how it works. I help them figure out what's the right way for them. And if they have no idea, then I can give them a number of ideas and go around a circle and say which one sort of feels right to you. And if that still doesn't, I might just say, go do some research and come back next week and let's talk about what you found.
Okay.
So I'm not that kind of coach. I'm not the kind of coach that says, oh, here's what you do.
Yeah, that's good. I have worked with a lot of coaches, and I haven't worked with you directly in the capacity of client relationship like that, but I find that if you get a coach that doesn't allow you to be yourself and teaches by the book or does it by
Mm.
question answer, that kind of thing, or in their way specifically, you don't get as much out of it. Like I
Right.
feel like people that work with you would get such impact out of it because you're helping them look inside themselves and get past the things that they need to get past.
Yeah. Yes. So, when we've worked together and you talk about core messages, right? My core
Hmm.
message really is about empowering people to fulfill their potential.
Hmm.
So I can't do that for them.
Right.
I'm empowering them. I
Hmm.
can't actually fill their potential.
Yeah.
And so that piece of empowering them is always on my mind. I want
Mm.
them to walk away for years to come and be able to have a happy, successful life because they learned things
Hmm.
that they can use forever.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
I guess that's not good for getting them to come back, but I think, with cars, they always break. So,
Yeah.
you have to keep fixing them. But, people keep
That's right.
growing and they always bump up against troubles. I've got some
Yeah.
people who have come and gone for the last 10, 15 years. I've got some clients who check in,
Yeah.
every 3 months or so, and we do a session, and it's really helpful.
Yeah. Life isn't linear. I think I've heard
Yeah,
linear,
linear.
something like
Yeah.
that.
But life isn't linear is good. It sounds like
Yeah.
that. Not sure what that is, but it could be a
Like this.
commercial.
Yeah, like it's not like this, it's like this.
Yeah, it's
What's
true.
what's the best part that you like about your job or your what you I wouldn't say it's a job, but what's the thing that you like best about the people that you work with?
Yeah. I always say to people, I have conversations for a living. I just love that. I love people. I just
Hmm.
find them eternally fascinating.
Yeah.
And I have such belief in humans, I have such a deep respect for what humans are capable of. And I love watching people grow. It thrills me, just thrills me.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
cool. Good, good. So what are you working on these days for your business, for the people that you help?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So I am, COVID kind of changed things in my world. I
Mm-hmm.
had a very full practice with half of my practice were life coaching clients. The other half were leadership clients who were learning about emotional intelligence, and I was working with them to be better leaders. Those people were coming to me through a company that did training on leadership. So it was like,
Mm.
oh boy, 3 more clients. Oh boy, 5 more clients. They did all their leadership training in live. And I guess I shouldn't be using that word, because if I use that word, you have to put something under your YouTube channel to say something. So the pandemic, we'll call it.
Mm.
When the pandemic hit, all of a sudden their business went stopped for a while. I mean, they've since rebuilt differently, but their business stopped, which meant my business stopped. So I thought, okay, I need to learn how to be online, right? I need to figure out what to do, what that is. So I'm on website number 2. I'm
Okay.
on a new niche, and I'm on products as
Mm.
well. And so I created a program. It was originally called the Confident Entrepreneur, and I did it live coaching, group coaching. It was wonderful and I loved it. But now I'm seeing that what the world wants are digital products. So I'm creating a whole suite, an offer suite that
Mm.
includes a freebie, a masterclass on how to conduct discovery calls, which are a key element to a coach's sales process.
Mm-hmm.
I've created a coach with confidence planner that helps people to, and I actually did make it digital, but you can print it out and
Okay.
do it by hand, but you can fill it out PDF. I've learned all these different things that you can do to help prepare yourself and prepare for the client and to grow. And then there's going to be a redo of that Confident Entrepreneur program as the Confident Coach program. And it's a mentorship program, and it will be digital in that it
Mm.
will be videotaped and workbooks, and I will do some live events along the way, but those aren't in the program itself. Those will be the extras that people get who purchased the program. And so, yeah, I'm learning about all that. And because of that, I'm learning about SEO
There you go.
and how to show up online.
Yeah.
And wow, it's a learning curve.
Yeah, so that's a nice stepping stone into the small business sweet spot, and you being actually the very first member last year. So it was
Yeah.
really fun to get started with it and working with you. Why did you jump into that program, or what led you into that?
You know, something I read on somebody's, I mean, I remember how I found you. Do you remember that?
I don't remember. How did you find me? I probably wrote
Well,
it down somewhere because I'm sure I
maybe
asked
you
you.
did. The
Yeah.
woman who does, she's a wonderful woman who does templates, and I can't remember her name, and I can't remember her Instagram, but I followed her on Instagram. Very, very personable. Just went through a cancer thing. Does it
Hmm.
ring a bell? Anyway, her
Mm-mm.
name escapes me, but she had an engaging Instagram post about, is if there's something that you need for your business, and I wrote, which I hardly ever do, I wrote, I need to figure out how to people can find me and how to make this website more than just a brochure, is
Mm.
what it felt like. I had 2 years of a website that did absolutely nothing. So she wrote, oh, you might want to talk to Barb Davids,
Hmm.
who's doing this, that, and the other. And I said, okay. And then you contacted me. So I think
Okay.
she may have told you about me. So it was a really like Instagram-y moment that you
Yeah.
think, "Oh, these actually do happen."
Hey, Instagram works.
It actually worked not in the way we thought, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In a
Yeah.
networking way, it worked.
Yeah.
So yeah, so and that's essentially what was happening, is that I had a website that was absolutely dead.
Mm-hmm.
Always was. It did nothing. So I was grateful that the people had helped me to build it, but then it was like, okay, it's not even floating.
Yeah.
It's just like, and so that's what I needed. I needed to figure out, well, how does this work in this world? How do you get people to come to you? How do they find you? And that's what I needed to learn.
Okay.
What in the name of the world is a keyword, and how do you
Mm-hmm.
find that? And what do they mean by researching that? And it's, all that stuff. I just didn't know any of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't. So now,
Yeah.
though, I'm very educated. You'll be happy to know that I was on the call with a client last night who said, we were looking for something, a book about how to create better boundaries,
Mm.
actually. And I said, well, put in, executive learning, something about bounds, something. I can't remember what the words were. And then I said, those are good keywords to find what you're looking for. And I went, I just used the word keyword. I must understand what it is. And I stopped her. I said,
Yes.
oh, by the way, I couldn't have said those two words before a year ago. So I thought, okay, I'm learning. I'm
That is
definitely,
awesome. I
it
love
does feel
it.
awesome. It
Yeah.
does. And it feels awesome to kind of learn a little bit more about why, what the world wants. They just don't necessarily want to call me up for 10 coaching sessions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. So some do, and that's fine. But I need to do more, and I have a lot to offer, and I have a lot I want to share. So these products and services that I'm creating will definitely help me to express myself in a creative way. And then I need the help from people like you to figure out how do I take them to the world so that they learn about them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, it's been fun watching the website redesign that you've had and just
Mm.
all the back and forth with the keyword research and the blog posts that you've been talking about and reshaping them a little bit and how to go through the decision of, changing up your platform. You were talking about doing some of that and how to switch that over. And there's just so many things to think about, especially when you start looking at your website and saying, okay, how am I going to attract people? But once they get here, well, what do they do?
Yeah. What do they
So,
do? Yeah.
yeah. So,
That's exactly right. And it's I still don't know what's going to work because I'm still creating the offers
hmm
and putting that together, and learning about that, learning how to do a funnel.
hmm
But the hope is that once that's sort of in place, then I can go out more into the world, like writing for Tiny Buddha.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really wonderful that they accepted my first
Yeah. That's
and
fantastic.
second.
Yeah.
But now I need to find the place that will attract more of the people that would be interested in my offers.
hmm
And I just don't, there's just so much time in the day, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. That's where your priority list comes in, right?
That's right. The
Yeah.
priority and that finished one before you go to two,
Yes.
because it's so easy to work on five, and that's my consuming, right? I'll work on five
hmm
things at once because I don't know what that does. It gives
You're
me a little.
procrastinating on number one for some reason.
That's right. Not,
hmm
and I do know why, because you've had this experience. The first 85% of the project, you do it. And then the last 15% could take a year to
hmm
finish. It's like, I remember that was true in school when I wrote a paper. It was true about it seems like it's true about renovating. You get that first, and then the last one, the list it seems endless. So it's fun to do the first part. The last part to get it finished is all the little stuff, filling in the holes, right? All the
hmm
stuff you don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
That's why I ended up moving on to, let's do something more fun and creative. Let's
hmm
create a product instead of finishing the funnel,
Yeah. Yeah.
which right now
Exactly.
is redoing emails, right? It's like, how much fun is that?
Oh, yeah. That's a ton of fun. Not. Oh, that's too funny. Okay, so let me ask you two more things.
Okay.
One is there anything that I maybe didn't ask or we didn't get to in relation to small business owners finding their stuck point so that whatever's holding them back from success that they don't do that anymore? Is there anything in that whole arena that maybe we didn't touch on?
Well, the general idea, I think, for small business owners is that they have to work as hard on themselves as they do on their business.
Mm,
That is so true. Your business owners are unique in that way, is that their business is an absolute reflection of themselves, their self-worth, their self-identity. That shows up in their business. And if you ask anybody, if they think about it long enough, they will agree with that. So that means you have to work as hard on yourself as you do on your business. So I think that's the overall message that I think is really worth thinking about.
well, my next question was going to be what's your key takeaway, but I think that has been answered.
Oh yeah,
Well,
your key
just
takeaway, my who's
yeah,
key takeaway?
your key takeaway, what would that be? And I'm thinking it's probably that, but do you have some other key take with that? If somebody were to walk away from this episode, what would you want them to walk away with?
Mm. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that was it.
Hmm.
I think that was it. That was sort of, instead of looking for the answers outside of oneself, start to look within.
I like it. All right. And if somebody is interested in your coaching, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, they could go to my website.
Oh, no, really?
They could be one of the two people that are visiting it every once in a while. You know, my email, is that givable? Do I give that out
Yeah, that's
on
totally up to
national
you.
television?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So that's always the best way to get me, because I really
Okay.
do check my email. So I am one of those people. Lisa@lisagarber.com. Hopefully easy.
Okay.
Lisa@lisagarber.com.
Okay. And
That's
that's
the best way.
Garber, right?
Yes, be like Bob.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. All
And of
right.
course, I'm
Well,
on Instagram,
yes.
doing just an incredible job with Instagram.
Yeah.
At Lisa Garber Coaching on Instagram. So
Okay.
it's a little bit more niched.
Great. And thank you for coming to today's episode and taking the time to share about your business and small business owners. I really appreciate the time.
Wow. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I appreciate being able to share.
All right. Thanks so much. And that wraps up this episode on the inner game of our small businesses as owners. Stay tuned for more episodes on making your business thrive online. See you in the next sweet spot. Cheers. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're looking for SEO and content marketing help, consider joining the Small Business Sweet Spot. It's a group coaching program where you can get answers to your questions about your business directly and clarity around the marketing strategies that you would like to implement in your business. You can find all kinds of information at compassdigitalstrategies.com. And if you like the episode, please tell a friend. Cheers.